All right. Oops.
When the shovel first came out. Oh, that was. For example, you have a drop down. It has a state of closed.
All right. Okay. All right. Welcome back, everyone. I think I'm recording. Yes. All right. Welcome back, everyone, from your reading break. How was your reading break? Short. Yeah. All right. So today we're going to learn, and throughout the coming weeks, we're going to learn about Vue. First, a few announcements that I put in my pocket. One. So does everyone have an AWS.computer studies account from, yeah, we're good. If you do not, please email me and I will email someone to set you up on there. Actually, Umar, I emailed that one person to set you up. So she should be good by Monday. Groups, yes. So email me your groups for the presentation topics. Email me your groups and your topic that you want to present by the end of this week. Third announcement, assignment number 2 is out. So if you check out on Blackboard under assignments, you shall see assignment number 2, which is right here. I'm going to briefly go over that in a second. Assignment number 4, bring your headphones each week, not just today. Or assignment number 4. Announcement number 4, bring your headphones each week. And announcement number 5, install the Chrome extension Vue.js dev tool. So in case you don't know where that is, let's go to Chrome extensions. Not a Chrome, is it? This is, wait, is this Chrome? Oh, this is Edge, sorry. Chrome extensions. Vue.js tools looks like that, so install that. Okay. Okay, so let's quickly go over assignment number 2. Looks like this. All right, so it's basically you're using Vue.js to create the game Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And this assignment will require you to use not only Vue.js, but week08, as well as some of the browser APIs like the audio API, speech synthesis API, speech recognition API, some keypress integration, and for the bonus marks, you can get to include integrate client-side scripts with server-side scripts as well, for 13%. So you'll need a couple of things. You'll need the Vue library. This will be the Vue can be done a couple of different ways. And I'm going to play a video for you in a second. I think out of Angular and React and Vue, I see why the attraction is towards Vue nowadays, just because it's more approachable, whereas React has a more steep learning curve. Angular also has a steep learning curve. And you'll get the sense that when you work with Vue today, you'll get the sense, wow, this is sort of like jQuery, but way better. So if you like jQuery, you should be happy with Vue. You will use this API, which is a trivia API, which will give you the questions and answers. You may want to research on YouTube how the actual game show works, so you can listen to the sounds and music to emulate that. And so you will have to create one of these screens. I gave you this as a grade booster. If you haven't done that, that's okay. Just, you know, you could actually use one of my templates, and I've actually given you that in Blackboard for today. So let me see here. So this one right here under assignment 2, WWTBAM, which stands for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. .zip, that contains the HTML, CSS files that you need for today's class, but I encourage you to make your own game screen, not just depend on mine, because mine looks crappy, but at least it works. Okay, so yeah, so you're going to use a bunch of different things that we'll learn throughout the next 5 weeks with Vue and some of the browser APIs. And yeah, that's it. And make sure you pay attention to the rubric for the marks, where the marks are assigned. Again, for this half of the semester, all the labs will be mini assignments, basically, because I'm just taking it directly from the lab. So today's lab, I'm going to ask you to do complete number 2 for today's lab. Okay. Cool. All right. So what we're going to do today is we're going to learn about Vue for the first half, the second, or the first third, I guess. The second third, we're going to learn about just regular JavaScript stuff, so like a week08, a library called Lodash, and some browser APIs such as the audio and the speech synthesis, hopefully time permitting. And then this is where I'm going to differ it up. So the third third of the class is just going to be a work period just on lab 2, which means I'm hoping that all of you will kind of gather around and help each other out, and I will come around and make sure everyone's progressing with lab 2, just so that you're starting off on the right foot. So, and there's also some opportunity for bonus marks there as well. So if you did very poorly in the first half, you can kind of make it up by doing the bonus marks for the labs, okay? All right, so this is where I'm going to play a 6-minute video, 6 to 7 minute video of the creator of Vue. His name is Evan Yu. And so we're going to watch some of that right now. Let me grab it.
It's complicated. And what has changed is your
from 4:30 to 11:30.
So Vue evolved along the way from a very simple small core library to kind of have its own ecosystem of surrounding tooling and libraries and all that. So in the beginning, I was reluctant to call it a framework because it was really just a Vue layer library. But today there's a lot more into it, and I kept thinking about what makes Vue different from a huge monolithic framework
like Angular
that comes with everything out of the box, and why so many people seem to like Vue better than in comparison to those frameworks. And I came to the conclusion that Vue was designed from the ground up as a progressive framework. So we probably all heard of a progressive enhancement or a progressive web app, which is a concept Google's been pushing lately. But what is a progressive framework? So the word progressive is defined as happening or developing gradually or in stages. And I believe frameworks can be designed the same way in that each step of the framework can be adopted incrementally. And the reason we need that, particularly in the front-end world, is because front-end has exploded in complexity in recent years. If you think about building a really large-scale front-end application, there are so many things involved. But at the same time, there's something fundamentally different between front-end and the back-end, because in back-end, you do a lot of similar things for almost every app. And you always need a user system. You almost always need a mail system. You almost always need a queue or jobs, things like that. So it makes sense to pack these all as a battery included framework. But for the front end, there is a wildly varying level of complexity in terms of front end. Sometimes when you're building an app, it also has to do with the back-end framework you're using, right? If you are building an app that is primarily rendered on the server, you're just trying to add extra functionality, interactivity onto your front end, right? You probably wouldn't want to adopt a full-blown single-page application framework, but there are other times where you probably just need a little bit more power in handling that growing complexity, Or sometimes you do want to build a full-blown complex front-end application, right? There are different levels of needs when it comes to the front end. And it's important to have a solution that can, have the elasticity to adapt to different complexity scenarios. And I believe Vue is headed towards that direction. And so I'm going to try to peel down all the things you would need to have in a complex front-end app, and try to peel down parts that you don't actually need in certain scenarios. And I believe at the very core of all modern front-end libraries is the ability to do declarative rendering. And we'll talk about the rest of them following that. So the fundamental problem we have when doing any type of front-end work is how to keep your client-side state in sync with the DOM, right? So it's easy when you're just rendering a static page that never changes. But when things start to change, it starts to get complicated. And what has changed is your client-side state. For example, you have a drop-down. It has a state of closed or open. And when it changes, you want the DOM to be changed accordingly. And it's easy when you try to do it when there's only one thing happening. So you can use jQuery, of course. You can just select the element, you can just set its display to none or display to block. But it all sounds easy at first, and then you gradually add more functionality into it, and you start having more and more complex selectors, and then you nest callbacks, things out of callbacks. And when you continue with that type of imperative DOM manipulation, you inevitably end up with something like this.
Spaghetti code.
Not saying that jQuery is bad, but it's just that if you try to build a really complex app with jQuery, it's not going to be very maintainable. So what we really want is to have declarative and reactive rendering that makes everything more simple. So when we render things on the server, right, it's relatively simple because we are just pulling data and we render once. And it's idempotent, it doesn't change over time. Every time a new request comes in, you're doing a new render. But when you are on the front end, it's a long session, right? So the user will be continually interacting with your app, and your app has a state that's continually changing. So you have this very difficult job of keeping your state in sync with the DOM. And the DOM has such a tedious APIs, which makes this even worse. So the state should be the single source of truth. And we want our DOM to we don't want to even touch the DOM. We just want the DOM to be the shape it should be, right? That's the ideal situation. So the goal of Vue is to make that happen. And when you write a template in Vue, we are declaratively telling Vue, say, hey, this is what the view should look like according to this state. And once you have set up that relationship, you just focus on manipulating the state and about touching the DOM yourself. So that frees us from this messy problem of trying to keep two things in sync with a terrible API. So focus on just on the source of truth instead of something that you don't want to touch. Okay, so
that's pretty much it. So when he's saying terrible API, he refers to the stuff like document.query selector. Grab a thing. He's referring to like .inner HTML to put stuff. That's what he calls the terrible API. Like his argument is you shouldn't have to touch that stuff. The ideal situation, rather, is to just declaratively render. This is how it should look. So that's what you're gonna learn today with Vue. All right. Just a couple of notes on resources for Vue. Out of everything I've read regarding the different frameworks of Angular, React, and Vue, I've read so much compliments about the documentation on Vue's website is by far the best out of all of them. So if you are ever stuck with how to do something, go through their documentation. It's apparently very clear and the best out of the three. Also, another thing that I'll give a shout out to is this one, Vue Cookbook, which has some, I guess, recipes, so to speak, on how to do more complex things. Okay, so this is where I'm going to try to change up my teaching style a bit. And this is where I'm going to ask Brando to come up, and I'm going to guide him from scratch how to use Vue. And this will be your in-class exercise for today. So if you code along with us, with him, hand that in on CodePen. That's all I need is the CodePen link just to show me that you've done it. That's great. Okay. And I'm doing this because I'm hoping that this method of teaching will be, it'll be at the right pace for you, as well as hopefully it'll generate conversations between Brando and I as he discovers cool things about Vue. So whatever, you can interject any comments or questions you have. All right. So here we go. All right. Okay. So come on up. Brando. Let me get my phone ready. All right. So everyone's opening up a new CodePen. So the first thing you have to do is include the Vue.js library. So in CodePen, you can do that through the JS gear icon, but I'm going to ask you, Brando, to just go to the Vue.js webpage. So open the tab, go to the Vue.js website, vuejs.org. Look for the getting started, look for the link that you need. Scroll down a bit. There. So for the development version, that script tag, copy that script tag.
Wait, this one?
Yeah, the first one. That's the development version, whereas the one you were just highlighting is the production version.
This is the right one?
That's the right one. Copy that. Actually, before you paste it, can you do the emit where you say exclamation mark and then tab, so you get the now paste it inside the head below the title.
In the head, below the title.
Yeah. Awesome. So everyone got that? Perfect. Okay, in your HTML section in the body, within the body tags, we're gonna put one div tag with an ID of app.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Or more?
Is that good? Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Okay. So you said div with ID of what?
That's all you need for the HTML section. Okay. Now skip over to the JavaScript section. Actually, just drag the JavaScript all the way up so you have the maximum room. Right. So because we already included the Vue.js library, we're going to actually use Vue. How to do it? So write the word new, lowercase, space, and then the word Vue with a capital V, and parentheses, the round parentheses. I'll just call it. And inside that parentheses, do an empty object. So excluding brackets. Oh, sorry. Yeah, just one set. Okay. And make some space within that. So we're going to, yeah, and enter. Okay, perfect. So inside, just below that, yeah, perfect. We're going to say EL, the letters EL, which stands for, what do you think it stands for? Colon. Now notice we're inside an object format. So everything we're going to write is key value. So colon value. That's pretty much everything I'm going to write. So then after the colon, we're going to put in quotes the ID of the div tag. Put the hashtag before the letter A. What do you think that is?
Corrects or grabs that element?
It grabs that element,
yeah.
Correct. So now we can do anything we want that's inside that element, right? Okay, next, yeah, good comma, then enter. So the next key value pair is the word data. So put data, and put an empty object, and we're gonna write some stuff in there. First key value property I want you to type is message. And inside there will be, in quotations, hello world. Perfect. We're done. Yeah, perfect. We're done with the JavaScript part. Go back to your HTML section for a second. Inside your div tag now, inside your div tag, put the two mustache brackets, so squiggly bracket, and squiggly bracket. So now inside there, where the cursor puts the name of the variable that's associated with hello world. Sorry. So hello world is your value.
Message?
Yeah.
Okay.
Message. Cool. Right. Now think about that. Just before we move on, think about that for a second. Reflect how you would do that in regular JavaScript that you've done so far. Right. You would have to document.querySelector.div tag, do an .text content, and then put hello world in that. But notice the simplicity of this style of view. You never have to do document.querySelector ever again. You never have to worry about touching the DOM. That's the beauty of view. You just declaratively render. Just say this is where I want the message to go, and it does it. Okay. So this is what Angular, React, and Vue does for you. You don't have to touch the document.
And when we say new view, we're just naming it whatever we want, right? It doesn't have to be view. It can be anything.
Well, for line one, line number one.
Yeah.
When you say new view, it has to say new view.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how would you call different ones? It's just from the objects inside of it? Or do you need to?
Different ones.
So like we grab the div element based off of the ID, and what inside of that we grab multiple elements inside of.
So inside that div tag of app, we're going to put a bunch of more HTML elements, whatever.
Okay.
And because all those HTML elements are inside the app, we have access to all of that.
Okay.
And then so Vue has access to all of that. If we had said, good question, Brandon. If we had said message outside of that div tag, Vue has no way to do anything with that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it? Yeah. Great question.
So if we have a second div ID app too.
Yeah.
Do you do again new view and
Yeah.
the same process?
Yeah.
Just every time you want something.
Yes. Yes. Although typically you wouldn't see that. Typically you would just have one thing that you would attach to, and everything inside that is just changing automatically. Ooh. Yeah. Great question. Yeah. If you have any questions, this is exactly what I wanted for the teaching software today, where questions and answers. So you're slowly comprehending this. Okay, this is great. Okay. Next, any other questions, comments? Yeah. Jamie. So if you want to grab something different, a different ID, you would have to say the whole new view again structure with that EL with that new ID. Yeah.
So you couldn't put just after.
You couldn't put it after, no. And typically when you see next year, you will do a course called comp2112 with Rich Friedman, which deals with Node, Mongo, Angular, and Express, all JavaScript based. And you will notice that you will have a similar thing where your element is just one ID right at the body tag. So Rich is basically saying, target that body tag with the ID of whatever, and now Angular has access to everything inside the body tag. Same thing here. Yeah. Great. Any other questions? Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to introduce you to something called vModel. So in your HTML, maybe below your message thing there, so everything's inside the app. So let's put some break tags just to make it clean. And I'm going to ask you to put the HTML element of label. So label. Actually, before you do that, backspace. Try this. Try the edit way. So just type the word label and then tab. And for inside there, just say this is a label. Then so underneath that line, put some input. So input tab. And let's name this. Let's give it an ID of something.
Sure.
And so because your ID is cool, make sure the label for
Or that is.
Now, after that ID attribute is cool, we're going to add another attribute within the input tag.
Within the
Here's where the new introduction for the V model comes in. Type in v-model equals, and then message. So we're targeting the same message variable, which has hello world. Yeah. Okay. Now, notice before I tell you to do anything, notice how message is both the top at the very top with hello world on the web page, and that same variable is in the input box. Yes. Try changing whatever's in the input box right now. Change it to whatever you want. Cool. Very cool. So what you're now seeing is its reactivity. This is what why React is called React, and Vue and Angular kind of are based upon the same thing. Because you're using the same variable of message and it's binded to message, it will react accordingly whenever that variable changes. So now in your code, let's go back to our email assignment for assignment 1. If you had an array called emails and you suddenly push a new email from fetching it, the very act of pushing it changes the item called emails. The very act of being changed will react on the web page immediately. You don't have to worry about inner HTMLing anymore. Okay? Any questions or comments so far? You like the style of teaching, by the way? Good? Cool? Yeah? Okay, awesome. Okay. Before we move on, or maybe, yeah, okay, let's move on to V4. So I'm going to introduce you to V4, V-4. Okay. So inside your JavaScript section, underneath the message, so you already have the comma after the message, which is good. We're going to add another key value pair.
On a new line?
Yeah, new line. Add the word items. An empty array. So square bracket. Yeah. Now, perfect. So now let's enter some lines. Enter. So let's add in some names of fruit. Just give me 4 names of fruit.
Like, just
Apples, comma.
sure, yeah. Apples. I don't know what's another fruit, grape.
You got 4 strings in there in the array. Perfect. Back in the HTML section, let's put another break tag underneath the inputs just to make it clean. And right. So underneath the break, let's add a UL tag. So we're going to have an unordered list.
I guess
A UL tab, yeah, perfect. And then do a LI tab. Perfect. Okay. Now inside that LI, we're going to add an attribute called V-4. -4 equals. Oh no, sorry. When I say 4, I mean the word 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. V4. No, sorry. When I say 4, I mean like.
Oh, just for okay.
Think of the V4 as like your for loop. Sorry.
Okay.
So remember how we did map.map, and inside .map you could have any parameter, you could name it anything you want, right? So you could call it email, arrow, same thing here. So call this whatever you want. I would call it singular of items. So item, I just say item, whatever you want, and then the word space word in space, and then the name of your array inside your data, which is items. Okay, now look at your web page for a second. Notice how it already knows there's 4 elements in your array, and that's why you see the bullet points. Now we just have to display it. Okay, so how do you think, Brando, how do you think we're going to display the word using mustache templates inside that list tag? Now I noticed you used a single. You need notice how when you said message, there's a double scoping bracket. It's always the double.
Okay.
Yeah. There you go. There.
Okay.
Oh, nice. Good pace. Okay. All right. Everyone's following along. Now I'm just gonna mention this offhand. Whenever you're using a V-4, purely for performance reasons, it's recommended that you do this as well, even though you won't see the results on the page. Okay. So maybe after your V4 statement inside that, we'll add another attribute, and we'll put in colon and then the word key, and then equal. And then in here, you could put in anything you want. Just put in item in quotation marks. For this, what this does is just purely for performance reasons, Vue will use that key attribute just to know where everything is, just in case you have to change it. Again, you won't see the results of this visually right now.
So it's kind of like indexing?
Yeah, it's like indexing. Perfect.
Okay.
Yes. Perfect. Yes. Thanks. That's a great statement. Okay, here's another thing that you could do. So remember back in .map, you know, say you had an array of emails, you could say emails.map and then email arrow function. Well, remember that first thing there, you could have the optional index parameter, right? You could say email, comma, index, make sure that's in brackets so that you can later use that index variable. Same thing here. So for after the V4 where you say item, you could put item in brackets, and then we're going to put comma index. Index, right. So let's just output that index. So instead of item, where you have double bracket item, put double bracket index. It's just oops.
We put both in there technically, like just to see.
Yeah, for sure. So after that, well, yeah. So add another squiggly. Perfect. Yeah. Any questions so far? Okay. Just to throw in another, hey, this is what you can also do. After your key item statement, we're gonna add another attribute.
After.
We're gonna put in colon. And remember how I said you could put in data dash whatever for any attribute? So we'll put in data dash and then name it whatever you want. Data dash item, whatever. Equals, quotes, and then you could put in the variable index in there as well. Now, visually you see the same thing, but if you inspect your web page right now, like right-click your web page, and then go to one of those list items. Oh, there it is. You can see it right there. Notice how you have a new data attribute, data item equals index value, right? Perfect. That's just the FYI, in case you need it. Perfect. Any questions so far before we move on to another one? We are very briefly going over the basic concepts of Vue. There's so much more to Vue. I'm just showing you just the very, very basics. Okay. All right. Let's close off that. Good. So what we're going to do now is in your HTML sections, we're going to wrap the li tag. We're going to wrap that with another HTML tag. So put a space, underneath. Yes. Okay. So the tag that I want you to type is transition-group. Transition-group. Yeah, perfect. End it off there. Now what this will do is whenever you have a change of state, you can actually tell it to animate. So transition groups will allow you to animate things in Vue. So we're going to do that in a second. Now inside that first transition group tag, have an attribute called tag equals, and then in quotations, UL. And then take away or remove the UL. So if you inspect your list now, you should still see the UL in there because the UL is still in there because you said tag equals UL. Okay. Now here's what the cool thing is. We're going to just add some animation. This is pure CSS. So go into your CSS. Actually, before you do that, there's one thing I forgot to. Okay, just after you said tag UL, put another attribute.
Okay, yeah.
And we're going to say name equal. And then call it whatever you want. We'll call it items. Okay. All right. So now in your CSS section, we're going to call a class called, so put dot. Then what's the name of the class you just wrote?
We did name.
Dash move. Dash move. So what transition group does is it'll look for whatever you name that, and then it'll add a dash move and look for that class in your CSS. So then in your CSS, you're just going to add one statement. So the first word is called transition, colon, transform, space 0.75s, and space the word ease. Semicolon. You're done. Okay. So let's make a. Oh shoot! I forgot to write this in my thing. Let's write a button. Oh shoot! No, I forgot one thing. Okay. Let me take over. Oh no, just stay there because you'll come back. So I'm going to introduce you to a new library that's well known in JavaScript called Lodash. Let me just see here. No, I didn't talk about it. Just to give you a history of this library, Lodash is a very popular library amongst JavaScript developers. Think of this as a bunch of methods that you can do on arrays. So for example, here are different things you can do with arrays. So for example, here's one thing that they call, what do they call this? They call this chunk. And notice how they call it. They call it with an underscore here, with a dot, and then the name of the method. That's why it's called Lodash, because they call this underscore a Lodash. There's actually a little bit of history for you. Before Lodash came into existence, there was a library called underscore, which did exactly the same thing. But then developers didn't like using underscore because it got so bloated, so they created Lodash. So Lodash is essentially like underscore. And you may notice some of the methods here are very similar to native methods that you see in JavaScript. So I don't know, let me see, like for example, reverse. I think some of you use reverse in your exam. And so, you know, maybe JavaScript got it from Lodash and they just included it in. So that's the kind of thing that Lodash does. Lodash gives you all these additional methods that native JavaScript doesn't have. And then sooner or later, the TC39 committee may actually add in native JavaScript one of these methods because it's just so popular. Okay. So I just wanted to mention that. And the reason why I wanted to mention that is because there's one method here called shuffle. Okay. So this is what shuffle does. Here's their example. You pass in an array of 1, 2, 3, 4, and the output will be a shuffled randomized array. Okay. So we're going to use that now in our view example. So come back up window. So go back to the Lodash webpage for a second and grab the script that you need to. At the top left corner. Oh, hold on, sorry. I see the under downloads link. There's like core build, full build, and CDN copies. Click on the CDN copies. And then that first one there that says lodash.min.js, I want that. So there's an icon there, copy to clipboard, perfect. Copy URL. And include it in ours. So this equals whatever you just copied. Do script colon source, and then tab. Script colon source tab. Now we have the library. Actually, I'm not sure. Can you put that script tag above the view tag? Below whether or not we have. In your side, your JavaScript section. So notice right now the outermost structure is EL, then data. We're going to add another key value property. So put a comma after that closing bracket of data. And we're going to type in the word method and empty object. And then, okay, so here the methods in Vue, this is where you put all your functions. So whenever you need functions, you put it basically under methods. There are some other options, but this is the basic one. Okay, so we'll call our method anything we want. We'll call it, shuffle, because we're going to use the shuffle from Lodash. Call it shuffle, and then put friends. Actually, it's not, for this one, actually, let me come up there for a second. Real quick. Don't type this yet. I'm just going to demonstrate. You could say shuffle, colon, function, that. But I don't know if you remember back in the day, ES6 allows you to just, if you have the style, you could just do this. Same thing. I want to show. So shuffle, friends, and then the squiggly bracket. So inside this method or function, we're going to do something. We're going to say the following. Say this dot items. So the first thing I want to say is you always use the word this when you want to access something inside your view. So notice how you have data, and inside the data, right now we have two things, message and items. So if you want to access message, you say this dot message. If you want to access items, you say this dot items. Okay? If you wanted to access shuffle, you say this dot shuffle. Elsewhere in the code, kind of thing. Okay? So here we're going to say this dot items equals, and we're going to now use the Lodash method. So put the underscore dot shuffle. This shuffle is now from Lodash. Friends. And then inside the friends, it's this dot items. Perfect. And then we're going to call this by pressing a button. So go back to your HTML section. Maybe put a button underneath the list. So underneath, yeah, right there. Put a button tag. Inside the button, we're going to add an attribute. And it's going to be a click event. And you just put the @ sign, just like, yeah, and then click, the word click, equals, and then in quotation marks. Then you just put the name of the method that you just said. That's it. And put some text inside the button so you can actually like click me or something. Yeah. Okay, so before you click the button in the web page, because we're done, before you click the web page, what do you think based on that JavaScript? Go back to your JavaScript for a second. What do you think it's going to do based on that shuffle in line 14? The order. And because we're using it's inside a transition group, and because we have the CSS animation, it should automatically animate as well. So go ahead and click me. Yeah, well, click it again. Click it as many times as you want. Cool? Very cool. Everyone's getting it? No? All right. That is what so that is the end of hour number 1. We're going to take a 10-minute break now. I can come around to get anything you want or if you have any questions. Okay? Here's first.
So I added the. I added the. I believe it's the property.
Oh, you want to say, you had a different, you had
Is my logic, is the logic correct? Yeah. Oh. I just typed it.
Oh, I see.
Here?
Yeah.
I just Googled it. And that was my error.
You just,
Is that animation?
so you have the transition. You have to start the name. I don't need that. Yeah, set the name.
That's very cool.
Was that working? So. How come I see this? I should have seen this one. Right here. So hello. Was it working at all at any point? Maybe there's like one little thing, one missing. That's something like that. Maybe we'll comment on that and just make sure it works with this message. So just make sure it works with basic. So comment on all that was. So now I just want to pull it. So now it goes. That's good. But then that means something in here there's a typo. Just look for. Maybe you're missing something. Rotation, something. Oh, see? Always wanted to, right? Any other question? Oh, okay. So now we have to do your one. So then make sure you have the Lodash installed. Oh, you don't have it. You just have. Oh, interesting. You have two views. I don't. You didn't. Yeah, you didn't. Let's keep one view. Let's take away this. Probably wanted to change this, right? So we have to copy the Lodash one. So if you go to your Lodash, then we want this one. So we copy this one, copy the clipboard. Paste. And try it now. Click. See, it's shuffling. So it's not animating yet, but it is shuffling. Okay. So to animate it, you have to have your CSS. Oh, you misspelled. See, items. This has to be the same. Items. And then view will automatically put dash move. And then now if you say click line.
I went to. Anyway,
Name's the hill? Or I gave you 0 for the which one? Midterm?
Yeah, and you had to comment
What was my comment?
that two of more.
Yes. We'll talk after. We'll talk after. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Go on.
Can you just save this code? Can you save this code?
Say that again?
Can you save this code on your code pen?
Yeah. Oh.
We can focus.
Okay. Say
That is available.
column view.
Favorite was
Yes. Yeah.
Years about it. Oh yeah, I guess. Did you just have it? When's your last year?
Try to do week08.
You start being at 9, and you start being at 12. So that
Water, black coffee.
yeah, that's what I do. So like 16 hours, 9, right? Yeah. I try to do it 16 now. I heard 16 was like.
I heard like 1 to 8, like usually. So that's your meeting time. It's 1 p.m.
Oh yeah, restricted to 8 hours. Yeah, that means.
Hey, Jay. What is it going on here? It's giving the whole array instead of, you said index. Oh, you know what? You said items, which refers to the whole array, instead of item, which refers to singular. That should change. There, done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why would it not work if it's not in this thing?
Because this view, does targets everything inside the div app. So if it's not inside, so if it's just outside of this div, there's no way for JavaScript to access. It's sort of like when you did targeted something to inner HTML into something. Remember that? It's like it's impossible to enter HTML into another div that's outside of what you targeted.
Oh, I thought it was stored here. And I think I ended my div here.
Okay.
So everything is just blank.
Right. Exactly.
I thought it was just a variable that's going to fill it in.
No, so everything has to be within that div ID app in order for Vue to do something with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really quick thing.
Yeah.
I know it's hard.
Oh yeah.
I don't think. Only because it's sort of like progressive enhancement, like it's like there's 2 layers of communication, and like it just slows down like the quantity of information that you can divulge.
True. That's true. And I'm hoping the comprehension
Yeah.
is an inverse
But
proportion.
people could easily just revisit your slides, right? Or revisit your.
Well,
But then.
that argument could be made for my entire first half.
Oh yeah, and people are too lazy to do that because they're just so long.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I see what you're trying to say.
I'm only doing this for the Vue stuff. Now I'm going back to normal. And for next class, it'll be again on Grad and I just for one second.
Oh,
I think it's good for the new stuff, and
just
then
kind of easing it in, and
Yeah.
then you're
yeah,
that's smart actually.
yeah.
Rio Italiano.
I keep saying everything.
That's like my much.
Just put them public. It should be there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So make sure you hand that in for in-class exercise, and you'll get your easy 2%. That was it. Yeah. So just submit your code pent, and right now. Okay. So, oh yeah, question. Yeah, true. Yes. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay. So this second hour, I'm going to go back to not Vue, but just back to regular JavaScript for a second, because you will need to use this for your lab and for your assignment. So remember how I talked to you about fetch and callbacks and promises and all that. So I'm just going to touch upon that today. So remember how back in the day, whenever you wanted to get JSON, the method traditionally was XML HTTP request. That was the old style. Then came along fetch. That was the newer style. However, this new one called async await was invented or put out there, I think last year. And this solves the whole pain point of dealing with callbacks in terms of visually speaking. So here's how it works. This code here, I'm fetching some JSON data. The only difference is I'm using the word await because I'm waiting for that data to arrive, because fetch takes a long time. And once that data arrives, I put it in my response. And then I can deal with it later. So, and also, when I use await, you also have to use the word async in front of the word function. So you can only use async await within a function. Oh, there's a question, yeah. I think I meant that for the lab, not the in class. Hold on. Weekly learning. 8. Oh crap! Yeah, I meant this for the lab. Sorry. Let me do that. Let me correct that right now. Good catch. Good catch. I meant this for the lab. What happens when you're trying to do things this morning last minute? All right. Paste that here. Do not. That makes sense now? Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, thank you. Okay, so the advantage of using this method of async await, and this is the method I want you to use from now on, is that visually speaking, it reads synchronously, just like PHP, right? Remember in PHP, you kind of fetch some database thing, and then once it came, you put it in a variable. That's what we're doing. Like we're saying, as if it was synchronous, fetch some data, put in a variable, and then now the next line, you immediately deal with that variable. No longer do you have to use the dot then. No longer do you have to use a callback within a callback. It's just visually, it reads as if it was synchronous. It's just more understandable. However, what makes this possible under the hood is it uses two concepts that are new in ESX, something called promises and something called generators, which I'll briefly go over based on the documentation. So here's the MDN documentation of a promise. So here is the concept of a promise. Whenever you, let me magnify this. Whenever you say new promise, it comes with it by default this two functions, one called resolve and one called reject. So if, for example, fetch is built on top of promises, which is why you have the dot then, because promises use, as you can see here, it uses dot then. That's why fetches uses dot then, because it's built on promises, and promises use dot then methods. And so when you say new promise, it comes with two functions, one called resolve and reject. Those are the only two states. So if it does something successfully, it will call resolve. As you can see this in this line, it calls this function called resolve, which came with it. If it doesn't do something, you can say reject. Okay, so that's why when you fetch something, fetch some JSON data, that's why you use .then, because it's using promises under the hood. So that's all I'm going to say about promises. And then the other thing I want to say that async await is based off of is generators. So generators is a new thing. Oh, why is it not showing here on my page? Oh, that's interesting. This web page might be temporarily down. Okay, anyways. Okay, so I just scrolled down for another example. So here, for example, what makes a generator is you put this star or asterisk after the word function. And what that means is this entire function is now known as a generator function. To use it, your next line is something like this, give it some variable name equals that function. And now to actually use it, you say the method called .next with that. So in this case, when you say .next .value, it gives you the response wherever you see the word yield. Okay, so I know it's yield. Think of yield as it's like a pause function with a pause within the function. So this is new. I've never seen this before. When I first came across this, I thought it was pretty cool. Yield will actually pause in that function. It won't continue to go on until you command it to go on with the command .next. So this is just brief introduction to promise and generators, just to say that async await is built on top of promises and generators. Okay, so the advantage again is it's used to make code look synchronous, which is easier to read, but it's still asynchronous under the hood. Oh, and I did want to mention this. There's a method called promise.all, which you might find useful in the future. You could say something like this. You could say promise.all and give it an array of 3 different promises. So for example, promise number 1, and I think I have this as an example somewhere. Ignore this for a second. Oh. Comment this out for a second. Here, I have 3 promises. I'm fetching something from Makaru. I'm fetching something from api.github.com. And I'm fetching something from another API. And what I can say is promise.all, and inside an array, put the 3 different promises. So it's now fetching JSON data from 3 different locations. And promise.all, what that will do, it will wait for all of them to resolve. Notice how I use the word resolve. Remember, promises uses resolve or reject. Those are the two functions that come with it. So once all 3 promises resolve, then you can do something with it. And that's what you see in my console now. You see all the values from all 3 locations. One from Makaru, which is right here. One from API GitHub, which is this stuff here. And then another one from the other one, which is right here. Okay, so that could be useful for you in the future. Let me go back to the async await one. Let me comment that out. Back to this one. So I kind of emulated your email assignment. I have an array, empty array called items. I use an async function. So the word async comes before the word function. Here's my Makaru API URL. And then here is where I fetch that. However, notice I use the word await there in front of the fetch, because fetch takes a long time. It's sort of like delegating to the kitchen, using my Tim Hortons analogy. So await will actually wait till the response comes back. And once it does, it'll put it inside response, which means you can now work with response in the next line. Okay, you don't have to do this whole complicated .then, data.json, .then, response, do something, that kind of thing, whatever. And so basically you want to place the word await anytime you're waiting for something that takes a long time. And this will work. So let me see if I can, there. So I just made it run, and you can see on the console log, as I say console log here, there's my data here. Okay. So all that to say, async await is the new way to call asynchronous functions like fetch, rather than using the fetch.then method. No question, yeah.
So it does the same thing as then, but just
yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Let me see. I had some old code here somewhere. Wonder if I can demonstrate that with my old. This is the class notes that I used last year. Right, so in the beginning, you had the XML HTTP request, blah, blah, blah. Then you had jQuery come with their own $.ajax or $.whatever. And then we had our fetch with the .thens. And then we had this. Okay, so it's basically, think of async await as a nicer way to deal with callback functions without you having to mentally realize, oh, yeah, I forgot to put it inside a .then, right? Kind of thing. And that's all I want to say about that. Next, Lodash. Oh yeah, we just talked about Lodash. So I don't know if I should do this. I had this fancy idea of doing a group activity with Lodash. You tell me if you want to do this. I don't know. In my mind, it was kind of hokey, but because it's hokey, I thought it could work real well. So this is what I had. Take 10 minutes and share with your table group one Lodash method that you find pretty neat. And so how you introduce it to your group is you say to your group, hey, did you know that Lodash has a blank method that can do blank? And then the group will respond with, that's blank and cool. What do you think? Okay, all right. So okay, we'll pass on that one. The whole point of that activity is just making you look, what kind of methods are available to you in Lodash, because it is a very popular library. Review the methods. Maybe I'll highlight one other one from Lodash that you might find useful for the assignment. It's under control. There it is. So under string, you have all these different methods, and the one that you might want to use for your assignment is this one, .escape, which converts the HTML entity characters into regular characters. So for example, an example of HTML entity character would be like, you can't put a quote. Instead, it'll be like ampersand. It'll be something like that, right? Ampersand quote semicolon that comes into your JSON data. But you don't want to actually print out ampersand quote. You actually want the single quote. So that's what this will do. So for example, here's an example. Here is a string. Oh wait, hold on. Is this the reverse? Oh, it does. Okay. I thought it did the reverse of that. Yeah. Yes. That's right. That's what it is. Yes. So you may want to use this for your assignment. Yeah. It is freaking cool. Okay. All right. So my teaching ideas may not pan out as well as I had in my head. So okay. Next thing I want to do, and this is where your headphones come in. So put on your headphones, put on your earbuds. We're gonna have some fun with this one. Oh, okay. Make sure your volume is really low then. Make sure your volume is really, that you can hear it, but it's low enough that it won't disturb others. Okay. So if you got your headphones, and I remind you to bring your headphones each week, make sure your volume is low enough so it doesn't disturb others. Okay, here we go. We're going to learn something called speech synthesis API. I believe with Scott McCrindle's class, one of your assignments actually used this, right? But it was just a simple function that he provided for you. You didn't actually code it yourself, right? So we're going to code ourselves. So it's really simple. Here is the very basics. It's just 4 lines of code. Okay. So I want you to, and I think I provided a code pen here. So in my next slide, if you want to use my code pen, you can. If you want to use your own JavaScript file locally, that's fine too. But here, it's probably easiest to just use my code pen on my slide and just fork this code pen. So I'll demonstrate this right now. Hold on, let me get. There it is. Okay, so let me open this up. That's not it. Oh, shoot. I had the wrong thing here. So, okay, I just realized that my CodePen here beside the speech synthesis is wrong. So just erase whatever you see there, okay? You can fork it and erase it. Totally missed that. So I'm just gonna erase everything in the JavaScript, gone. And we're just gonna copy and paste these 4 lines. So go ahead and copy these 4 lines into your JavaScript in CodePen and hear it out. See if it works. Work? Yeah, right? So show of hands, who has it working? Awesome. Show of hands, who doesn't have it working? Okay. Oh, okay. Doesn't work? Try, okay, for those that have it working, try to make it say something else. Like, that's freaking cool. There it is. There it is. It's funny, right? It's funny? Funny. Okay. So you're going to use this for your assignment because just like the game show, I want you to use this to pretend it's the game show host to read out the question and answers as if it was like the real game show. Okay? So what was that? Excellent question. The question is, can you change the voice? Which I'm going to lead you into right now. So if you open up, shoot. I want you to, okay, are you using this in CodePen? Okay, so right click, so notice so right click the web page here and say inspect because I want the real console. I don't want the other console. Okay, so now we're seeing this. I want you to type a couple things. Type in the word host because that's what you said. You said const host equals blah, blah, blah. So type in host, enter, and I just want you to explore the object that is returned to you. That's all I want you to do. Just open it up, kind of explore it. Just say, oh, I didn't know it has that attribute. Okay, whatever you said here. Maybe you didn't say host for your JavaScript. Maybe you said something else, perhaps. No. Not defined. The next thing I want you to do is, after you've typed in host, type in speech synthesis and then enter for that. Explore the speech synthesis proto. No, I think we're no. Try it in Chrome if you're having any. Okay, so when you explored speech synthesis and you expanded the proto, there's one method in there that might answer your question, Umar, about can you change the voices. So let's look at that again. So speech synthesis, enter. You expanded it to explore it. Explore the proto. Do you see anything here that could answer your question? On voices change. There's another one. There's this one here. Get voices as well. So, get voices. Yes. So Umar, the answer to your question is the there's a method called get voices that can change the voice. So let me show you how to do that real quick. Okay. What was that? Snoop Dogg? No, I don't think it has that option, but I'll show you the options that it does have. So let me magnify what I have here. So if I say speech synthesis, which by the way, this is a global variable, speech synthesis, just like alert, right? Window.alert. This thing is like window.speech. It's a global thing. So if I say speech synthesis dot get voices, enter, you'll see that in my case, my browser has 21 different voices in different languages. I can actually try to set that. Native code. Are you using Chrome? Oh. Yeah, I'll be there in a second. So let me give you some playtime right now. Oh yeah, put the parens. Notice Matt how I said parentheses here. So I'm calling the function, right? Because if you don't put the parens, your console is just giving you the function code. But if you put the brackets, FYI, in JavaScript, whenever you put the brackets, the parens, that means run that function. That's what that means. Okay, so I'm going to give you some playtime and explore how you think you can assign a new voice. And I'll give you a hint. Here's the hint. You want to say host.voice equals, and you can do this one of a couple ways. I'll do it like the brute way, which is not nice. This is not elegant by any stretch, but it works. Okay. What goes in here? Try this statement. So host.voice equals speech synthesis.get voices, which returns an array of whatever, and just give it a value in there of whatever voice you want, and then make it speak after that, and see if it changed on you. So I'm going to put here number 4, because I want the English accent one. There. And then now to make it speak, let's try it again. What do I say? I say speech synthesis.speak host. So let me just put that in the console and see if it changed voices.
Hello world.
Right? That's the female English accent one. So play with that for a couple of minutes. Have fun with it. See if you can get that to work for you. Are you getting it? No? Oh. Okay, let me come around. Did you get it with the first example? Okay, as long as you got the first example, you don't have to change those. Voice is just yeah, they're still getting hosts. Yeah. Not just for fun. Here's another fun thing you can try. Here's another fun attribute you can try within host. So notice when I say host and I look at the different attributes, another attribute I can play with is this one here, rate. Rate. So what happens? What do you think will happen if I say this? Host.rate equals 1.5. That's the 1.5 speed. And then let it speak. Try it. Okay, that was just for fun. Host rate. You could play with that all you want later. We're gonna move on. We are gonna move on to another API, the audio API. So let me just get my thing in here. So I have given you in Blackboard the soundtracks to the game, the actual game show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So if you open up Blackboard under Assignments, under Assignment 2, you will see a zip file called Sounds Music. I want you to download that, and you'll have all the music for your assignment for the game show. There's like several files, a dozen files are in there. Okay, so go ahead and unzip this file right here, soundsmusic.zip. And we're going to play a sound file in there called round 1. FYI, you may notice that that the music files that I provided for you are not .mp3 files. They're .ogg files or .ogg. Trivia question, does anyone know what the full name of that format and why it's used? So OGG stands for Ogg Vorbis, and why it's used is because it's open source. Whereas MP3, technically you have to pay royalties to somebody if you use that format. OGG, you don't. Okay. So once you have unzipped that file, you should see something that looks like this. So you should have these kinds of files here. Let me unzip it. And if I were to open one of these files right now, let me see what application is it going to play. Audition. I didn't want Audition. That's okay. Playing on my computer, that's good. Okay. So this is how to play music or how to play any sound or audio in JavaScript. Okay. So once you've unzipped that file, we're going to try to play round1.ogg. So this is where I don't want you to use CodePen because you've already downloaded locally. So you have to create something local on your own computer. So within Visual Studio Code, actually, even without using, okay, right now, without even using Visual Studio Code, this is the line here, which I will copy and paste. Just open up your browser, okay? Just open up your console in any page, it doesn't matter. And then type this line. So I have it in a, oh shoot, will that work for me? That won't work for me. Sorry, go back to what I originally said. Go back to what I originally said. Open up your Visual Studio Code. Make a new web page, HTML web page where you've downloaded your sounds. Okay, so here I've downloaded my sounds. I will make a new web page called index.html. I'll do the scaffolding. I'll do the exclamation mark, and then I'll put a script tag in there. Okay. So all you have to do to play the music is you have to define a new variable. I'll say const music equals, and just say new audio, and then parens. And then inside, you have quotes, and then you put the path name to your music file. So depending on where you've created your stuff, mine is like right at the same directory. So I'm just going to say round1.og. For you, it might be in a different directory. So you might say sound/round1.og. You know, wherever it is, just put in the right path. Okay. Now, next one, actually, just run that for now. I don't want to get into complex. So just run that for now. It's not going to play yet, but it should load the page. So open up a browser. Open up your, where did it go? Shoot. Where did it go? I don't know where I put it. Sign 2. Oh, sign 2. Sign 2. Sounds. There it is, index. Okay, so I have a blank page. That's okay. And then if you open up the console for a second, you should have, if you say music, you should have that. And it should give you the audio element. Yes? Which means you can do, okay, so now if you say music.play, does it play? Does it play? Show of hands, does it play? Okay. FYI, you could also say .pause to pause it, .play to play it. Now, why did I choose to say .play here? Watch what happens if I say it over here. Music.play. Okay, now I'm going to refresh. Let's see if it plays automatically. It gives me an error. Before I tell you what's happening, what do you think is happening? Yeah, exactly. It's another one of those asynchronous things. It takes a long time for this new audio to actually read your file, right? Just like how network requests and fetches, it takes a long time. Another long time is actually reading and writing files locally in your own computer. That takes a long time. So by the time it reaches here, it hasn't finished getting that yet. So one way to get around that would be, shoot, now where did I go? Would be like this. Let me, this. You could say music dot, and this is a method called .on can play. So, oops. So this is sort of like it's waiting. It's sort of like the await. It's waiting for, can I play this music yet? And if so, then run this code. So I'm saying play this music only if you can actually play this code. So now if I refresh this page, hold on. Wait, am I doing it on the right one? Index. Thought it would work because I did it this morning. Uh-oh. Did I save it? Save it. Okay. Uh-oh. Weird. I don't know why it's not working. It was working this morning. Let me try this one. This one's called Audio Inside. Where's this located? This one was the one that worked for me. And this is located under Sign 2. So if I open up a Sign 2 into audio, does that work? Shoot. Oh, man. I don't think I have to call it because I said it. Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening there. Anyways, when it comes to your assignment, you will be asked to play the background music for the game in appropriate places. What I would recommend to do is have this line of fetching your actual files somewhere either at the very top of your file. So by the time it reaches your view code, it's already done. Or you could put this in something I'll teach later. Within the view structure, there's another, just like you have EL, just like you have data, just like you have methods, you have another one called mounted, which is part of the life cycle of view. which will run whatever's mounted first before it actually does the rest of the view code. So, so you could do one of those two things. So I'm not sure why that's not. Okay. So I think that's all I wanted to say. I think that's all I had. And then the third hour, let me just go back to my my code here for a second, my slides rather, just to make sure I have everything covered. Right. Okay, that's it. Okay, so here's what I do. What I want you to do for lab for this week's lab. Okay, I say inside here, week 8. I say do complete 2A, 2B, and 2C of assignment 2. So what is that? That is A, 2B, 2C. That is this. You're going to use View to display the trivia question and answers using async await from, oh, that's what I forgot to mention. So this is your API called OpenTDB. Let me demonstrate that for you. OpenTDB. If you go to opentdb.com, it's a free open source API. If you click on this API right here, you can choose any number of categories if you want. So for the assignment, I will ask you to get 15 questions. So you change that number to 15. You could, change the whatever other options, but this is basically what I want. And then click on this bottom button, generate AP URL. So you click on that button, and notice it now gives you a new URL. So this is your fetch, where you'll put that in your fetch. So copy that URL. Just to test it, I'm going to paste it into a new tab, enter. Notice now I have 15 questions, right? So here's the first object. The question is, a carnivorous animal eats flesh. What does a nucivorous animal eat? It gives you the correct answer, and it gives you 3 incorrect answers. Okay? So it's your job for eventually, not for this lab, but eventually for the assignment, you have to kind of figure out how to display that on the screen. For this lab, it'll be easy. You could display it however you want, even though it's not going to work for you for assignment 2. Just do it however you think you can. You just say, data dot incorrect answers, square bracket 0 for this first one, square bracket 1 for the second one, square bracket 2 for the third one, and then data dot correct answer for the fourth one. You can display it however you want for this lab. However, when it comes to assignment 2, you have to figure out how to merge all of this together in one array, and also to shuffle it so it's not always the answer is A. So that's randomized, and yeah, and try to figure out if the user clicked on the right one. You have to figure that out too. Okay, but for this lab, it's just what we learned today in View, displaying it on the screen. That's all I asked. However, you have some opportunity for bonus marks. Notice here I say this, and this is a tremendous opportunity. So especially for those who are looking to boost their grades up, try this out. I'll give you 1 bonus mark if you just play the music of round 1 if I open your page. Okay, that's it. Number 2, I'll give you another bonus mark if you use speech synthesis to read out the question and answers. So that'll be a little bit of a more difficult challenge, but you could do it, right? Basically, you have to put. Well, let you figure it out. Okay. So actually, I should say I said additional 1 bonus mark awarded if this or that. I'll say I'll change that to 1 additional bonus mark for this or for either one. So if I'll a potential of 2 bonus marks. So additional bonus mark awarded if you do that. Additional bonus mark awarded if you do that. Okay, so you could double your mark right here. All right, so this will be a great opportunity for those of you who are trying to boost your marks. Okay. Cool. Questions? Yeah. I double checked the math on that. I think that one is working correctly for me for some reason. So I don't have to change it to 7 to make it work. That one actually converts it automatically to 7, which is weird because my quizzes didn't work like that. So I don't know what's happening. But yeah, I mean, if later down the line I realize, wait, everyone's mark is like Way too high. Maybe I'll look at that, but I'm pretty sure I double checked the math on that. It looks right to me. Yeah, at this point, just FYI, at this point, after the midterm, after the assignment 1, the maximum mark, not including bonus marks, the maximum mark you should achieve if you got perfect on everything is 54%, which means that this remaining half, there's only an opportunity for 46% left. That's not including bonus marks. So hopefully, if you're in a situation that you're trying to catch up, do the bonus marks and then you'll catch up, okay? So for this remainder half of the class, we'll take another 10-minute break. For the remainder half, and I'll try to do this from now on, is that the third hour will be a work period for this lab, which again, I can come around to make sure everyone's on track, that everyone's doing something, that everyone is getting their bugs fixed, okay? Because I want everyone to do well for the second half, okay? So, and also I do the same style of teaching for next year's class when you have me again for the animation. So the third hour will always be a work period. Okay, so this will be a nice slow-paced half and hopefully more fun half for all of you. So yeah, so any other questions, comments before we take a break and then before we work period? Cool, all right, let me end the YouTube.